Hello, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum, along with Paul Morrow, Jessica Tarlov, Jesse Waters, and Greg Gutfeld. It is The Five. It is New York City, and it is live. Hi, everybody. All right, so as you saw today, President Trump is not deterred. He's not happy, but he's not deterred after the Supreme Court struck down his sweeping tariffs under the Emergency Powers Law. It was a 6-3 decision, and it did upend, in some ways, something that has been a major tool of his economic agenda, and a word that he says is his favorite word of all, tariffs. So no doubt, a bit of a setback, but I'm not sure how much. He says he's not giving up. He's vowing that alternatives will be put in place, and he wasted no time on this. He put in a 10% global tariff under a different Trade Act, the Trade Act of 1974, and those tariffs will expire in 5 months. That's a pretty long time, unless Congress extends them after that. And the president had much more to say on this in the briefing room. Watch.
The Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs is deeply disappointing, and I'm ashamed of certain members of the court, absolutely ashamed, for not having the courage to do what's right for our country. Foreign countries that have been ripping us off for years are ecstatic. They're so happy. And they're dancing in the streets, but they won't be dancing for long. It's happened so often with this court. What a shame. Having to do with voting in particular, when in fact they're just being fools and lapdogs for the rhinos and the radical left Democrats. They're very unpatriotic and disloyal to our Constitution. I understand how they are very easily swayed. I went to be a good boy. I said to the owner, I made a speech at a factory. And I said, how are you? Nice to meet you. How's business? President, I'd love to kiss you. This is a very powerful man. I don't want to be kissed by that man.
But why wouldn't you just work with Congress to come up with a plan?
I don't have to.
On the Supreme Court justices who ruled against this the policy, striking it down, are they still invited to your State of the Union next week? And will you speak with them?
They are invited, barely. I think it's an embarrassment to their families. You want to know the truth.
All right, there you have it. Lively news conference today from the president. Some potential 2028 Democrats, of course, they wasted no time to try to take advantage of this moment. California Governor Gavin Newsom gloated on X within minutes. He said this: "Time to pay the piper, Donald. Your tariffs were nothing more than an illegal cash grab that drove up prices, hurt working families, and wrecked longstanding global alliances." And other Democrats also eager to weigh in. Watch.
I'm glad the Supreme Court was able to look at it from an independent lens and just look at the legality of it.
I think the president needs to actually listen to the Supreme Court and drop this and stop the pain for Pennsylvania and stop the pains for the American people.
This is good news for the American economy and for so many families around the country. This is also a very important reminder that this president is not unstoppable.
You know, Paul Morrow, I want to start with you on the legal side of this. You know, it strikes me listening to the reaction from Democrats there that, you know, the economy is showing a lot of signs of improvement. Wages are up, gas prices are down. You know, there's a lot of, most economists are evaluating this as an about to turn around significantly economy. I also see this, I was a little bit surprised in some ways that the president was so upset about this. And I talked to a few people who thought, you know, he's still winning on this. And he could have just come out and said, you know what, whatever about your ruling, but we're going to figure out a way. We have a number of other options on this, which they've been working on for some time. And we can put those into place. It's not a big loss. And I don't think that money's ever going to get paid back, $175 billion brought in tariffs. I don't know how they would do that. What do you think?
I'm surprised that he actually has made as big a deal out of this as he has, because there are very clear workarounds. The best one I see is 232. We've talked about it, 1962 Trade Act. And what he can do is he can use those powers to go after specific countries for national security reasons. Those are the ones that matter, as in China. Message to Newsom, by the way, who in my estimation is very much in China's pocket due to Silicon Valley. He can go at those individual nations. The mistake I feel that was made here is that he put an across-the-board tariff and then tried to say it was an emergency. It is an emergency relative to specific countries, but when you do it to everybody, the argument that it's an emergency gets undermined, which is one of the things that the plaintiff said here in this case, relative to the restitution. I just hope that the trade deals that they cut after the tariffs were done by a good contract attorney. Here's why. Because what happens with that is it's an international contract, right? They cut deals due to the tariffs, and they cut trade deals with us. Consequently, I would have had in there a non-restitution clause. That is to say, okay, if you come at me later and try to say, hey, this was done on false pretenses, I want the money back, here's clause B, pal, you get nothing. I hope that they did it that way, because if that's the case and that's there, this is a big nothing burger. And strategically, let's move from legal. Legal, I think he's going to get it. By the way, the only requirement here to go into 232, the Commerce Department has to do an investigation. You know who's the head of the Commerce Department? Lutnick. All right, he gets that overnight. So the thing here is that strategically, when the voting rights decision comes down, and that is, in my estimation, going to go his way, which is much more impactful, when the left starts to say, SCOTUS is in his pocket, he has to say, hey, look at the last one that I lost. Strategically, this is not that big a deal, and in fact, may help him in the future.
Yeah, and of course, the Roe v. Wade decision went the way that he and conservatives wanted it to go, a huge decision. So Jessica, when you look at, his attitude towards the court on this one, what's your reaction?
I'm not surprised that he didn't take the win, actually, that they handed him on this. There was a great opportunity to say, this wasn't my fault, my plan was working, the court is bad, but not so bad. We've gotten these really good things from them because you got a lot of great decisions as far as he's concerned, and then move away from an economic policy that's been hurting everyday Americans and American businesses. But instead, to double down and go with, as Paul pointed out, this 10% blanket tariff, which shows that you're not actually thinking about what you're doing. You're just mad and you love tariffs, and so you're slapping it on everyone.
Wait, I didn't say that.
No, that was me. That part was me. I just said the blanket part. But you did say that that's why he was able to be undermined, because he did the blanket.
It's a reasonable argument.
It
is. It's a reasonable argument.
That the Supreme Court made and Paul Morrow made, and now Jessica Tarlow, so it's got to be good. We know that the average American household paid an extra $1,000 last year because of these tariffs. We know that the average American
$2,000 extra under the Biden economy.
Dealing with inflation that you got because of a global health pandemic versus tariffs that he chose to put on us are very, very different. You know that 90% of the cost was transferred right over to the average American. You know also that we only had GDP growth for Q4 of 1.4%. I don't know if you were watching TV this morning. There was shock on people's faces. It was below even the lowest expectation. I think that Gorsuch's concurrence was maybe the most important part of the majority opinion today, where he basically said, we have a constitution. I know that you don't like it and that you think that you should bypass Congress, but there is a way that we do things here. And saying that it's only Democrats who are upset about tariffs really misses the point. Rand Paul out front on this. There were, I think, 6 Republican House members that voted with Democrats to remove the tariffs on Canada. 3 outstanding questions. $175 billion is owed back to Americans. How are we getting it? J.B. Pritzker is already suing the administration, $1,700 per Illinois resident. How will our trading partners respond? And then where will Trump go with this? We heard the 10% already, but there is an opportunity to back off because Republicans don't want to campaign for the midterms with a bunch of unnecessary tariffs.
Well, there's a historic argument that after World War II, the trade relationships that were put in place to help those countries recover after World War II were essentially still in effect in a latter-day form, and that if you don't go in bold on some of these things and shake up the chessboard, nothing will ever happen. If you wait for Congress to try to rectify these injustices that have been existing in trade relationships for so long. So I think this is classic Trump. I think this is classic Trump MO, Jesse, that he's like, go big, swing for the fences. Yeah. I'll deal with the courts later. At least then I've moved the ball down the road.
This is what Jessica doesn't understand about the strategy, is because he directs U.S. foreign policy, and foreign trade falls under foreign policy. That's why he went big, sweeping, across-the-board tariffs, because it knocks every other country out of their seat. They rush to Washington, D.C., and sign these deals as fast as possible. The deals are still in place Foreign investment is still pouring in, and that's when you look at the construction activity, all of the factories are being built because as these tariffs are set, it's cheaper to build the product here so it doesn't get hit with the duty that it comes in.
100,000 manufacturing jobs.
No, we're talking about construction. That always precedes manufacturing. I'll talk to you about that later. So the Supreme Court comes in and says, listen, you can't use this authority. You have to use this authority. So you have to do an investigation first. That's like telling a landscaper, you can't use a leaf blower. You got to use a rake. It's going to take a little longer, but it's going to accomplish the same thing. We need speed. This is the 21st century. You have to give the president a free hand to negotiate these deals and retaliate when the other side retaliates. Carney in Canada doesn't have to go to Parliament. He doesn't have to conduct an investigation. He hits back hard. Ursula in the EU, same thing. Xi Jinping, he dumps and he tariffs. He's got a sword and a shield.
He's a dictator.
He's not a sitting duck. Oh, so's Carney then. He's not a sitting duck like us who has to wait and then go and do an investigation and then come back. This is what we need now. Not only this, he's now gotten the Panama Canal back from tariffs. He's brought Greenland back into our orbit, and he's gotten NATO funding boosted from tariffs, not to mention the fact that wars have been settled because of tariffs. This is what's going to happen. He's just going to reinstitute the same posture under a different code, and they're going to go back to where they were. But the silver lining is, you're right. This time, when you do an investigation, you might be able to target strategic industries and do carve-outs like coffee or clothing, non-national security-related issues, and then you can still have a tariff regime that keeps in charge of economic national security, and we still have the justices invited to the State of the Union.
Well, that is most important.
Barely.
I mean, Greg, the justice's job is to evaluate the law that was used and decide whether or not it makes legal sense to them within the realm of the Constitution. You know, they need to figure out the separation of powers. That's what they did. I don't think it undermined this entire program at all. What do you think?
Try to think of something that hasn't been said yet in the last 3 hours. I got to say, it's tough. I don't think I'm with Paul in the sense that it doesn't block the system of tariffs. It just adjusts the leverage. It was entirely about leverage. And for the people that are gloating, they were probably the same people who backed the student loan bailout. You know, they could STFU. The Supreme Court pooped on that, but that didn't stop Biden, did it? Or how about the vaccine mandates? Supreme Court crapped on that too, but they still did it to the government employees. There's always a workaround, but shut up is what I'm saying. Here's what the media won't tell you. Again, it's about how much they lie about things. They lie about everything, including the Supreme Court, which they defined as MAGA. Remember, the Supreme Court was in Trump's pocket. And this was another scary narrative that was used in order for them to push things like term limits and packing the courts. But what it also did was it inflamed the public with this demonizing rhetoric that led to, you know, unwell leftists, surprise, surprise, trying to kill a Supreme Court justice. It's interesting how all of this rhetoric leads in one place, people trying to kill Republicans. The thing about being a Republican, though, we don't need a utopia. You know, we're used to work. So if we don't get it through this time, we do it something else. Our goals are secondary to our system, and we have a system. Trump has a very unique system, and it has a lot to do with leverage and working on behalf of the American people. Again, he's our a-hole. He's not the world's a-hole. He does it for us. And tariffs are not an emotional thing to us. It's just a tool. But it's because it's an emotional thing for Democrats, they have to take it as, oh, yeah, this is so great. It's like, you know what? This is just another day. We're going to get it, whether you like it or not.
You know who's a real loser here? Iran, because POTUS is in a bad mood.
Yeah. By the way, I do get what Gorsuch is saying. You know, you don't want to open up the opportunity for other presidents to enact policies based on emergencies of their design. But that would never stop a Democrat because they do that anyway. If you don't trans your dog, that's the apocalypse. So, you know, they
forgot about all our trans puppies.
Yes, they never consider the ramifications of what they're doing now. But as conservatives and Republicans, it's in our blood to think about consequences.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.